Hey folks, this is Matt once again, coming at you with another review. Thanks to the First Power 100 who sent me these films. This is of The Dogs of War from 1980, directed by John Irvin, who's done a couple stuff. He did Raw Deal with Arnold Schwarzenegger. My favorite is probably Hamburger Hill. I really enjoy that film. This is a film he did with Christopher Walken and Tom Berenger. Now, first and foremost, this film I would not really call it an action film. Uh, you have some action. You have a little bit of action at the beginning, and you have some action at the end. But I really would not call this an action film. Um, I'm not sure what I would call it though. It's hard to call this an action film. Basically, it starts off with Christopher Walken and his men. They're trying to get out of Central America, and it's a really good-looking shot where they're driving the jeep and it's along this way, and you see explosions and stuff happening in the background. Then you have camera goes where the jeep's going towards the airplane. You have stuff exploding left and right. Really well done. And you have an interesting scene where they get on the plane and one of their buddies is dead, and someone on the plane is like, no, he must get out. And Tom Berenger does a thing where he actually takes a grenade and puts it in his buddy's hand and says, everyone goes home. Basically saying that if you try to take them off, they don't release the grenade. And I thought that was kind of an interesting way to begin the film. And then Christopher Walken's back home, and he is trying to... Uh, seems like he's kind of a lonely guy, doesn't have much in this place. Uh, You have a teeny role by JoBeth Williams as this woman he used to know. And pretty much he gets a call saying this guy offering, okay, uh, in Africa there's a dictator that we want overthrown. Something about the guy who hires him has his mineral rights that he wants. I think platinum or something like that, mineral rights. But the dictator doesn't want anything to do with it, so they want him overthrown and put one of their own guys in there. And Christopher Walken says, okay, I'm going to go do reconnaissance. And he does, and he makes up a story that he's a bird watcher, and he's taking photos for that reason. While there, he meets this guy called North, who's a documentary guy who tells him a little bit of the history of what's going on with this dictator and how paranoid he is. And one thing leads to another, and he gets... they think he's up to no good, and they beat the shit out of him. It's not torture like martyrs or anything like that, but like he comes in a room, he's very beaten up. Uh, and then you find out that that documentary guy he talked to, North, has been given the dictator grief. So ultimately they decide to send Christopher Walken out. And after that, Christopher Walken doesn't want anything to do with it. And so he wants to have a life of his own. So he meets with JoBeth Williams, and they talk a little bit. But I didn't really get why she didn't want anything to do with him. I guess she thought he would never change, even though he said he would. But she just leaves, and they have, like, JoBeth Williams isn't in the film that much. She's in there for a little bit, then she leaves. And he's kind of pissed off about that and decides to take this job. Because he wasn't going to go back. He was just doing reconnaissance, but then he's offered more money. He didn't want to do it, but then when JoBeth Williams left his ass, he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. He did together a couple of his men. One of them, actually, I did not read. It was Ed O'Neill. I'm like, I recognize it. And it was Ed O'Neill himself from Married with Children. He's in there for a teeny bit, but he says, no, I can't go. I can't do this. And Chris Fullerton's like, okay. So he does Tom Berenger and a few others, including Paul Freeman is part of his mercenary group. Paul Freeman, Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And pretty much the rest of the film is them planning it, planning what they're going to do, how they're going to get the weapons, they're going to get some men, some backup, uh, who's going to help them storm the place. And then you get a little sequence where that documentary guy talks to Christopher Walken again, and Christopher Walken, Walken tells Tom Berenger, this guy's following me, he's a reporter, he does documentaries, but he's also a reporter. Don't harm him. Don't do anything. Because, the guy helped Walken get out there and also help Walken by giving him this film so that Walken and them know what's going on and the layout of the place. But then you find out the asshole who paid for Walken has his own agenda as well and orders a guy that pretty much kills that filmmaker guy, the reporter guy. Christopher Walken doesn't like that, and you have a scene where he puts like a piece of glass in the guy's mouth to get him to talk, and pretty much tells him that, you know, same guy who pays me, the same guy who pays you. And Walken gets pissed, kills him, and shows him to uh, the asshole, sort of to show that he means business, and that he shouldn't have done that. Then you get into the final act where they storm the place, and it's decent. It's a decent scene. A lot of stuff blowing up. Both Tom Berenger and Christopher Walken have this sort of projectile. I'm not sure if it'll show on camera, but on Wikipedia they show the weapon they uses, which, let's see if I see if this actually shows. Yeah, barely. Yeah, it barely shows because of stupid lighting, but imagine this has like a barrel that goes all around. I don't want to mess. Sorry folks, had to get a bottle of water to drink. But like I was saying, I was trying to show that gun, but pretty much it's the gun. I'll try to put the Wikipedia link down below. You can look at the poster. Pretty much a gun. It's a projectile launcher with a barrel underneath. And long story short, it's... You have stuff like Tom Berenger and this guy blowing up this tank. The four of them go to this place and they shoot. And you have like explosions in the background. Tom Berenger goes into place. There's a woman. He turns his back. He gets shot in the back. He dies. Christopher Walken goes in, shoots the motherfucker who torched him halfway into the movie, and then shoots the president, the dictator asshole. Then the next morning, the guy who pays him and the butt boy president he wants to put in so he can get the minerals and stuff, they come in. Christopher Walken says, "No, I got the president," and it's this doctor who helped Christopher Walken when he was in prison. The guy who pays him doesn't like that, and Christopher Walken is pretty much, I don't give a shit. He doesn't say that, I wish he did. And shoots the butt boy president and says, "This is going to be a new president," and heads off with his men, and Tom Berenger's by, and they leave. Now, to be honest, I was not a fan of this movie. I really wasn't. I just say positives. Christopher Walken's good. Christopher Walken, he's very good. I like Christopher Walken. I think he does fine here. It's nice to see him in the lead in this kind of film. I haven't seen McBain, though. I've heard bad things about it, but I haven't seen it. Tom Berenger is alright for a little bit he has. Same with Paul Freeman. But to be honest, I just found it tedious. I found it slow. I'm sure a lot of people disagree. Go, no, this is more intelligent and more... I don't know if realistic is the word, but it's more intelligent and it's more this and that. And to be honest, I'd rather watch Men of War with Dolph Lundgren. I'd rather watch a lot of films. I thought they did this job much better than this film. I thought this film, the very beginning, I was intrigued, but then, you know, Christopher Walken goes on reconnaissance. I thought it was kind of a little bit slow, and it didn't really do much for me. But I'm like, okay, it's building up. It's building up. But then I thought the payoff wasn't much either. Like the second half of the film, when he gets Tom Berenger and those other men, it's a lot of, okay, we're going to do... First off, the bit where Christopher Walken comes back, he doesn't want to do it anymore. He has this bit with JoBeth Williams. It's, what, 5 minutes at most? And it really is kind of a pointless. No, I'm not going to do this anymore. Calls JoBeth Williams. She comes over, they have dinner. She says, fuck it, and heads out. That's it. And really, like, to me, Christopher Walken didn't even give her much of a reason for her to leave. Like, was she just a bitch or what? Yeah, thinking that he's never going to change or anything, but I'm like, whatever, you didn't even give him a chance, bitch. But it was kind of, wow, that was a pointless scene. And then it's a lot of buildup of, you know, okay, we gotta get the money, then we're going to go over here so we can get the guns, and we need to get the guns, and Christopher Walken sees this guy, and then Tom Berenger sees this other guy, and we need to find a ship, we need to find the guns, we need to get them to over here. So a little bit too much build-up, and it really wasn't that interesting, it wasn't that intriguing, it wasn't that fascinating, it really was kind of tedious. Then, you have the bit where the reporter gets killed, and granted, it was interesting that the Christopher Walken made this guy put a piece of glass in his mouth. And then the guy's like, yeah, I was hired like you were hired, but I do things my own way as well. Now, like I said, Walken kills his ass and leaves it for the asshole who pays them. But even the ending is really that much run on by. I mean, I've seen better climaxes and Uncommon Valor, Delta Force, Missing Action 1, 2, and 3. I mean, many others. I just thought the climax of Daughters of War was kind of so-so. It's a bunch of build-up, and then even the payoff isn't really that much. It's, they're firing, and you see a bunch of explosions, but, it's kind of like point and shoot, and not really that interesting. Like, the beginning was interesting when they're following the Jeep, and there's explosions in the background, and same thing with the Jeep going to, I'm like, okay, cool, but it's like the director didn't bring any of that to the ending, the climax. And granted, Chris Falken has that cool gun, but he uses it, but there's really not much. He shoots a couple times, and then shoots at the door, and some other stuff, but I think he could have done a lot more with it. And I don't know, it just seemed like a so-so climax, and then he shoots the buckboard president and leaves the guy who paid them, leaves them there, and then they leave, and it's like, that's it. And I guess it's supposed to be this take on being anti-war or something like that, and much more sophisticated and intellectual. But to me, in this case, it was just kind of boring and kind of tedious and uh, very slow, too slow in my opinion. Uh, and the whole thing with Joe Beth Williams, you could completely cut her out. It really would not have done anything, and because they didn't really do much with it in the movie. And again, the payoff wasn't much. Uh, I thought it was kind of stupid how Tom Berenger got killed by this woman that happens to be there, shoots him in the back, and don't know what happens to that woman. I thought it was like a lot of build-up with not much of a payoff. That's just my opinion. And I thought it was a little too slow, too tedious. Christopher Walken's good, but other than that, there's really not much in the film I cared about. But maybe it would be for you. I mean, just so you know, folks, every single review I do, I rarely say, do not see this movie. Because I'm like, I don't know if I've ever said that. I probably have, but I rarely say it because go ahead, see the movie. Any movie what I love and hate, because you may feel differently. But to me, this was just, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather watch Men of War. I'd rather watch any of the Missing Action films. I'd rather watch tons of others that I thought would have faster pace or more entertaining or more, have better payoffs. And again, Christopher Walken's good, but other than that, there really wasn't much to it. But anyway, that's just my opinion. So thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later.